Many years ago, the comedian Jim Carrey had a movie called Liar, Liar. And he played a lawyer. And so one of the things he did was he missed his 5-year-old son's birthday party. And because of this, when the kid blew out the candles, he made a wish that his dad would never tell a lie. And so for the next 24 hours, he couldn't tell a lie. And being a lawyer, hilarity ensues. But one of the actually poignant parts of the whole movie was his ex-wife is yelling at him for missing his son's birthday party. And so Jim Carrey then starts to get angry and says, "I'm a bad father." And he just realizes that what he said, that he was about to defend himself, say how good of a father he is, but because he couldn't tell a lie, he then said he was a bad father. He was saying something true about himself. And I kind of wonder what it would be like if we had the same thing happen to us, that for 24 hours we could not tell a lie. And then it's not saying like, she's wearing her clothes look horrible, or my haircut is bad. But to look upon ourselves and say, what could we say about ourselves? Because we always lie to ourselves. I can say I'm a kind, generous, forgiving, and wonderful person. And if I have that truth serum, what would I actually say? Because sometimes I can't tell the truth about myself. And that's what really humility is, to telling the truth about yourself. And so how can you get that truth when the blinders in our own eyes can't tell who we are? Well, the very next option is to ask someone else. Who do you think I am? If you wanted to describe me, how would you go about it? And as you're doing that, sometimes that's not very good either, because if I ask you and you love me, you're going to shade it and say how wonderful I am. But if you don't like me, you're going to shade it the other way on how bad I am. And so if you can't do it that way, either of those ways, then how can you understand the truth of who you are? Well, that's where this gospel reading comes in. The people who are invited to the table are now jockeying for position. That's how I know where I stand, because in my hierarchy, in the pecking order of the dinner table, I'll know who I am. And in reality, that's not the case, especially when you're doing this jockeying because I want to be validated for who I am. I want to be up there to make sure that I get what's coming to me. And as Jesus is saying that, Jesus is saying the master is the one who will make that decision. And as if I'm jockeying up there and saying, I'll be right at Jesus' right hand, he might come in and say, go to the back of the line. Someone else is there for you. So how do we do this? How do we see who we truly are? And I think Jesus' answer is the one, how we understand who we truly are, is by going to the lowest place. To let go our need of saying, well, I got to be recognized. I got to make sure I get what's coming to me. I got to step away from being validated and saying, okay, I'm right there, right up with Jesus. To let it all go and let Jesus tell us who we truly are. To say, okay, wherever you put me, that's good enough, even if you leave me at the lowest place. Because we are who we are in the sight of God, no more and no less. And by reflecting on ourselves, we sometimes can get into that raft of who we are. And C.S. Lewis once said, humility is not thinking less of ourselves, but thinking of ourselves less. And the less we think about ourselves, the more we actually conversely know who we are in the sight of God. As we come before this heavenly table, may we remind ourselves that to place ourselves at the lowest place so that Jesus Christ will lift us high and reveal to us who we truly are in his sight.